Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at the CEO CTO series. My name is Dash. I'm the entrepreneur in residence at Asia Pacific University. As entrepreneur in residence, my job is to help students of APU pursue their entrepreneurial ambitions. And to this end, APU has set up what we call as enterprise at APU. And enterprise at APU basically has various components. It starts with inspiration events, which is basically to get students to understand what it takes to become an entrepreneur. One of it is Enterprise Wednesday, which happens every second and fourth Wednesdays of every month. And the other is the CEO CTO series, which happens every month, usually on a Thursday afternoon. And during the CEO CTO series, we always bring industry leaders to speak to students as well as alumni and the general audience. And the purpose of that is to give you a robust worldview of what's happening out there, whether you intend to pursue an entrepreneurial ambition and become a startup, or whether you want to go out there and look for a job and what's happening out there, what's the landscape like. We also have other programs like Ideas Bootcamp, Idea Accelerator, and also a venture building bootcamp. All this will be up in our enterprise at APU website very, very soon. So today we have the pleasure of having a very senior leader in the HR industry in Malaysia, very well known, Ms. Nadiah Tan Abdullah. Ms. Nadiah, welcome to you. A very warm
Thank
welcome from
you.
Asia Pacific University. Ms. Nadiah has more than 20 years of experience in the industry, both in local and global MNCs. This means more Fortune 500 companies. She's a graduate from the UK in international relations. And her focus and experience and expertise is very much driving change in organizations. And she's also a board member of Accelerate, which is a social enterprise helping youth with employment issues, and a council member of the Employers Federation, and many other things. Wears many hats. Apart from that, she has won many awards. And one of the notable award is the HR Leader with CSR initiative at Asia's Best Employer Brand Awards in Singapore. In September 2020, she was awarded the HR Best Leader of the Year by HRM Asia. So you have the best of one of the best of the HR people here to talk to us. Ms. Nadia, welcome
Thank
and a
you.
great afternoon. Yes. So
Um,
we know that you are very busy, and I know how difficult it is for me to have you on this show. And thank you so much, on behalf of Asia Pacific University for speaking to our students. We would like to, hear from you about the changing landscape, especially vis-a-vis COVID, of workplace with technology that's coming on. What do employers expect from students, and more, and then we'll have a conversation on this.
okay. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And obviously, there was a long list that Dash has actually mentioned. I'm just truly humbled to be here. For me, I think it's more of me sharing my experiences. I was a student before, many years ago, and I think I am still a student now, learning from the many new things that we are going through, especially so now when we talked about what's happening in the environment with pandemic crisis and all that, every day seems to be a new experiences for many of us. So when Dash actually asked me about this topic, what organizations are looking for today in their people, it's an interesting topic because I've been in the industry, or rather been in HR role for close to 27, 28 years, and that will tell you how old I am. But the world has really changed, and I think throughout the 90s, and then you have the Y2K era, and then we talked about the transformation through when we go to the IR 4.0, and today everyone's talking about VUCA. But what we've seen is what we require of people in organizations, fundamentally, some has changed and some has not changed. The core of what we looked for people, basically, I would say maybe 30-40% is still the same, but most recently, over the last 2-3 years, things has changed. The last 1.5 years, the pandemic has really given us an insight, not just from a graduate point of view or fresh graduate or even mid careers, but also at the leadership level. So across the organization, we're seeing a big change in terms of the requirement. So for example, leaders are now measured against how are they responding to crisis, and not anymore about the basic of doing strategic plans and so on. It's really about the agility of an individual, a talent in responding to the changing market situations. So I'll just like to set the tone about how the changes in the environment has really moved the needle in terms of what we're looking for people in the organization. And it is something that is dynamic. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So what I've done is, you will see that I try to use more of pictures because I think we don't want to share uh, concepts. Um, can you all hear me now? I don't seem to see you all. Okay, can you all hear me, right? Okay, I think a picture tells 1,000 stories, and for most of you who are students, you do read a lot. So I wouldn't want to share with you concepts and theories, but what I want to share is also some of the examples and experiences that I have been going through, either myself as an individual, but also as a HR, as a CHRO who hires and also develop people in the organization. So that's actually a picture of mine, one of the holidays I did. So I think for most of you, I understand the audience are students who are probably in the final year, first degree, or there could also be listeners coming in from students who may be part-time students. So for those who are sort of mature students, you would have had some working experiences, but I hope this will apply to both mixes of the student. So if you look at this picture, it's hope. I think all of us always have hope, especially for most of you who who toil your hours and midnight oil and trying to finish the exams and assignments. Because I remember I was a student before. I studied in the UK, far away from home, where there was no Wi-Fi then, many years ago, and it was just so difficult to get connected to home. But I think today everyone else can feel connected very easily. I have a son who is studying in the UK, and I talk to him almost every week. But hope is something that everyone of us have. Can you move to the next one, please? Next. So if we go to the next slide, what I'm showing here is this. I mean, this is me and my sisters going for holidays. I think many of you would also hope to have a life where you can have, fantastic time to yourself, having a work-life balance, and there's a huge amount of expectations. Um, on what is to be expected when you get into the working world, or maybe for some of you who's already done some part of a internship or short term, you would have had those kind of experience. But yeah, hope is a big four-letter word, which everybody has. Now next, and then when we see that when you graduate, then the reality hits you, and then you think for yourself, where do you even begin with, right? Because you hear so many things. And for some of you who are living in KL, you're probably much more exposed. For those who are outside of KL, you probably would also are well connected today because of technology and the stuff that you can Google anywhere in the world. You're all connected and you have a lot of information. But when it comes to reality, what exactly do you want, and how do you even begin with? Because you hear all kinds of things. I just want to share the story, right? I think most of you are familiar with LinkedIn. So when I talk about expectations and the reality is, this is a story that was quite real. Actually, one day, when I was working in my previous company, I had a missed call. I think like 5 or 6 missed calls from one of my friend who is also a counterpart in the HR world. And then when I finally got to her call, and I called him and I said, hey, actually Salika, who's from PwC, many of you students who know her, she was the HR HR director for PwC, and she's like, Nadiah, I really need to tell you this. And I said, what is it about? And at that time, I had just joined Experian, which was my previous company before Setia, and moving on from Air Asia. So I used to be the people director for Air Asia X. So I still had the picture of in my LinkedIn profile, a picture of me with sunglasses at Borobudur. I think one of the, you see those unique traditional windows and so on. And so she said, oh my God, and she was in Penang with a company, which is quite a structured company. And the company was running through a program for their fresh graduates or those who are supposed to be just joined in the company, and they were just suggesting through one of those slides, says, this is how you're going to present yourself and position yourself, and the slide shows what you should not do when you open up your LinkedIn account, and how you would position yourself. And my picture was there, and of course my friend freaked out, and he's like, oh my God, she's there. And there, my picture taken from my LinkedIn profile on that slide to say, this is what you should not do. And of course that was quite funny. I say, it's fine, Salika, because I said, I'm not surprised that company would have said that, because it's a very structured company, sort of I wouldn't say traditional, but structured in a very corporate kind of company. Whereas I was coming from Air Asia, and for most of you who knows Tony Fernandez, Azran, and Air Asia culture, we're very casual, and it has to reflect on the culture that I was driving to. And of course, I had not changed that profile picture. If you go to my LinkedIn profile now, you would see a different picture altogether. My point is that I say it's fine, because I wouldn't want to probably be working in that company, because it's not within my expectations or within the personality that I am in. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you graduate, you will hear all kinds of stories. You will say, oh, this company would expect you to be this way, and the other company would expect you to be this kind of thing. This will happen because eventually how a talent fits into a company, it really depends on the culture of the company. So if you're going to join Air Asia, it's very casual. You get to wear jeans every day. Everyone's really casual in the way they work. And that's, I remember I was sitting at the table, my CEO sits opposite me. We don't even have a room. We sit in an open concept, and that was okay. Whereas then you go into a more sort of like corporatized kind of company, I hate to say this, but sometimes senior leaders, it happens, and they fight over how big the room is and so on. So it really depends on how and where you want to be and position yourself. So don't worry when you hear all kinds of story, but what I'm going to share to you is more of the core traits or core behavior that is expected of most talent in most organizations. Yeah, so can we move to next? I would always like to make it easy, and I'm an acronym queen because I'm a learner and I like to read, but when I read, I like to scan and I like to make sure that I can remember things easily. So out of this session today, I hope that you will be able to take out something from my sharing and remember it. So all you have to remember is positive vibes plus 2R. That's what organizations will be looking. This is from my perspective and also from my experience coming from the many different companies that I've been in, and you can go into my LinkedIn account and look through my background. So I kind of one of the crazy person who went across different industries. I've been in manufacturing, FMCG, big data, Microsoft. I was HR director there, and I was in aviation. Now I'm in property development. So to me, it's amazing because every stop that I go, it's just so amazing that I'm learning new experiences. And every organization, there are different culture. So along the way, I don't lose myself, but fitting in a culture is important as much as not losing yourself. So I think that's important, because whilst we speak about this, I don't want you to think, oh my God, do I have to be like that to be successful? It's all about a choice. But I think what I'm sharing with you is really what has changed over the last few years, and what are the kind of talent we looked for by most of the HR or hiring managers. So just remember positive vibes. So positive passion, V for versatility, I for influencing power, um, and then you have B being brave, E enthusiasm, and as savviness, and the two R is resilience and resourceful. I'm going to go into much more detail on this and just share some examples with you. Can we move on to the next one? So I am actually a great fan of football. So of course, CR7 is my idol. I mean, I was totally disappointed that Portugal lost the Euro Cup. But yeah, for those who knows football, you know who Ronaldo is, and he is very, very passionate. And if you do read about him, he's very passionate about what he does, very disciplined, and he talks about how when you have talent is not good enough, but you have to be disciplined, and you have to make sure that you work on your passion. Now, positive passion is very important. And why do I use the word positive passion instead of just the word passion? Because when you're passionate, you means someone who's passionate, you will be very dynamic, very, I would say, like, you're very platonic and full of semangat and everything else. In Malaysian language, we say, you have got lots of energy. You're like this volcanic eruption, that you're so full of heat, energy, and zest, and so on. But I think it's important to have positive passion, because then you can direct your energy to something that who ask the right question, someone who really gives me the impression that he or she is well read on that particular subject, which means you read about that particular subject and you know it in and out. Because sometimes you get people who sell their communication skills, meaning that they can speak really well, but just touch and go up on the surface. But when you deep down further, a deep dive further, you don't get any solid content from that person. So being passionate is so important, because when we have a passionate talent, we know that the talent will be able to go across any other barriers. Never feel someone who's never feeling completely uncomfortable to go out of their comfort zone, and also is okay with feedback. Because I think if you're passionate about growing or about doing something, you will be comfortable with receiving feedback, because otherwise you'll be short sendiri lah. So positive passion is very important. And I've seen so many CVs coming in. Even through the CVs, I can see whether that person is really passionate or just tick the list, and I need to get a CV done and I'm sending it out. I always tell this story whenever I talk to graduates, or I did speak about this when I was speaking at the Graduate Live event about a week or 2 weeks ago. And I said, one of these girls that, one of the team members that I hired, Leanne, I hired her through her writing to me in LinkedIn. And of course, I can tell you, I have so many people writing to me, but the way she writes is just so passionate about what she believes in. And she not only said that, she even referred to some of the other videos that I've done. And so that tells me that this person actually takes on the effort to actually follow through and connect the dots and tell me why she's really interested to join me in the company, and how she is passionate about what she believes that she can contribute on. So I think that's important. Can we go on to the next one? The next one is versatility. I think being versatile is so important. My two favorite words on V is versatility and vulnerability. But I'm not going to talk about vulnerability now. But normally I talk about vulnerability at the leadership level. But let's talk about versatility, being versatile. That's a picture of a chameleon. Being versatile means that you must be able to be flexing your style, because when you get to work, you won't be meeting everyone who is like you will meet some people who you don't like, and you will meet some people uh who don't like you, and it's not going to be easy. But being able to be versatile, and later on I'll talk about savviness, we'll connect that dots later on, means that you have a higher chance of being successful at the workplace, because you're going to meet all kinds of character. And you being versatile means that you're not being stuck in your own domain, which means, let's say you are an engineer and you say you only do engineering, and it's a personal choice. But then again, when you're an engineer, so for example in a company, we talk about building collaborations, right? Engineers will normally work, let's take Setia. We have our engineers who sometimes comes in over the weekend to do their weekend duty. We call it weekend duty, and appear at our sales gallery. He's an engineer, but he's doing a sales duty during the weekend. But the advantage is that because he is an engineer that works on the planning and implementation of our projects, whenever he talks to our customer, he adds on another layer of expertise, because he knows the technical background of the product. But at the same time, that person has an advantage, because that person is also exercising or practicing his sales and marketing skills, which requires a different type of skills altogether. So when you're versatile, you are going to give yourself much more option, because today we are talking about organizations that are going flatter. So organizations are going on more and more flatter organization, because we know that technology has given us the opportunity to use AI, outsource certain roles, and specialization, deep specialization cannot work in most cases. We still do need deep specialization, especially so for those very technical kind of roles. But the more you are versatile, the more you are flexible, the more opportunity you are giving yourself, even within your career, within the same organization. I'm not even talking about outside organization, moving to another organization, but I'm talking about you being a talent, you're versatile. So in our talent reviews, in organizations, we always talk about succession planning. So in succession planning, we discuss robustly about a talent, and we say, is this talent versatile enough or not? Can the person be mobile? Can the person work in a different environment? Or can this person only work in a certain environment with a certain type of leader? Then it's very restricted type of talent. So that's not so good for an organization, because we don't know what's going to hit us. Like 1.5 years ago, nobody knew that COVID is going to hit us, right? Suddenly COVID hit us, and we have to change all our strategies. And therefore, at that point of time, the talent that has got the most versatility will be the one that gains most, because you can then move on and do other things without having a challenging time of moving on to a different mold altogether. Can we move to the next one? So the third one is influencing, and I say influencing power, right? So you remember, this is the part of the vibes, VIBES, influencing power. And influencing power is important. It's not just about communication, because you can communicate, but you can't influence. That's not so good. So we talked about whenever we hire, we want to look at how can this person influence, and that's easily done through the interview process. So when I interview someone, I would not normally ask the standard traditional questions. So let's say you're coming for a job in finance. Well, I may ask you some questions about finance, but I think I'll probably ask you, so what do you think of the current crisis situation? Because I want to see how are you able to systematically think differently, critically analyze the situation, and also at the same time be able to influence an idea, even though you're not the functional expertise in this. Just looking at time, yeah. So influencing power is important, more so because when we are working in a company, you're not working alone. So today companies are talking about collaborating, agile teams, building alliances, and peer management. So this is a concept which I learned painfully many years ago. So most times you think, okay, I'll just take care of my boss, I'll be good. That's not good enough, because nowadays you have the 360-degree feedback, and you have your peers who will either support you or break you. Because peers meaning you're the same level, that maybe next year you're being promoted, then you need the buy-in from your peers who will now support you in your new role. Because it when you're promoted, it doesn't mean just because you're promoted you will be given that whole uh, gift of, being given the authority to do certain things. You just have to earn it. I think the world has changed completely, and influencing a situation, influencing a group, influencing the peers is very important, and influencing it using the right technique. Because they say there are many ways to skin the cat, and some people influencing by force, or some people influenced by a dictatorial kind of a style, and that wouldn't be very classy, I would say. There are many ways. I mean, obviously we don't want to go into that, but influencing skills is very important within an organization. And today, and an organization, we talked about level 1, level 2, level 3, meaning using third party influencing. How do you get your ideas? So for example, for us, if we were to say, I came out with an idea and I want to make sure that it works. So do I just then present my idea, or do I then socialize it with the influencers around it? So I normally, within my team, I have maybe about 60% of my team who are Gen Ys, and I love working with Gen Ys because I think they're just so hungry to learn, so hungry to do a lot of things. We just need to know how to work with the Gen Y. And for me, I have this thing called 70-30. 70% they do their core job, 30% they do the people in my team, they do projects. And when there is a project, certain project, it could be a senior executive who's doing the job as the project leader, and a senior manager who's higher in hierarchy, who is a member of the team. Now I say to that person who's leading the project, you're the project director, so you lead the project. So it becomes a platform for the individual or the talent to exercise their leadership skills, and so on and so on. But it's true that situation that I'm actually then observing the way they handle themselves, the way they influence, because some people say, okay, I'm the project director, so you just have to listen to me. And I've also seen behaviors where, some of them, they won't be passionate about it if they're not a project leader. Now, these observable characters will be observed accordingly, and that will then bring you to the next step, whether you're going to be promoted faster, whether you're going to be the next generation of leader, whether you're going to be identified as the high potential in the company. So influencing is very important, because it also talks about how do you work on your own strengths and leverage on other people's strengths. Because today we don't live in the world of silo, where 20 years ago, if you have knowledge, you have power. I mean, today, as I speak with you all, you probably be Googling or sizing me up, and, and doing all those kind of things, right? So it is really important to make sure that Hello, can you see me now? Oh dear.
Yes, Nadia. Sorry, there was a technical issue. I think because I think during this pandemic, everyone is using the internet. So
Okay, so was it my line or was it at your end? It's my line that
I,
I was in and out.
yeah, even
Okay,
it happened to all of us. So it's okay, no problem.
okay,
Carry on.
okay. So I'll just continue. So now I think you can hear me, right? Okay, I'll just continue. Can we go to the next one? So next one is about being brave. Well, that's actually a picture of me doing what do you call that? Bungee jumped. Um, being brave is important and take the risk, but I'll say that being brave and not suicidal. And why do I say being brave is a criteria when we talked about this? Is because we want to make sure that we have a talent who will always raise their hand, volunteer, move out of their comfort zone, because then that also tells that us that the person has a growth mindset. I think it's very important to have talents who have a growth mindset, because the company will always continue to grow, continue to be challenged by all the changes that happen. And we also want to look at those who are not just being followers. We know that all talents are very different, not just followers, but also someone who's able to challenge the status quo and be able to come up with new ideas and so on. And that obviously comes with a lot of enthusiasm. Can we move on to the next slide? um, so enthusiasm is very important. And I mean, just look at this leopard, you just feel the enthusiasm, right? And of course, this I actually had this slide in one of my leadership program, and of course the slide goes with, you better run before someone else run over you, because if you the famous story of if the leopard doesn't run for the food, or faster than the gazelle will be eaten. If the gazelle is not running faster, he will be eaten alive, and leopard will get his food. But if the leopard doesn't run as fast, he won't get his food. So whatever it is, you just have to show the enthusiasm, because enthusiasm basically talks about being dynamic, energizing, participative, going the extra mile. Sometimes when I sit in interview, or even in some meetings, when you get people who just sit there and just keep quiet, and when you ask question, they have no ideas, and you're thinking like, hello, are you here or not? So these are very, very important traits that organizations are looking for, because as organizations become much more efficient, we want to make sure that we have productive workforce who can contribute and not just sit as a rider, because it's no more the old world of creating opportunity and creating a job for someone, but creating a job for someone who be able to also contribute and add value. And by adding value means you can then bring in some other contribution based on your experiences and so on. Can we move on to the next one, and then I should finish soon? So last, well, not last, the second last, savviness. Savviness is being very important, because when we talk about savviness, we talk about the form and substance, right? So a talent should have substance, obviously, what you're supposed to be good at, and you should have the form, which means the way you carry yourself, the way you talk, the way you speak and articulate your ideas. That's the form. But obviously we also have people who have got the form, they sell communication skills, they dress well, but they have no content, and that's tin kosong lah. In Malaysia we say that, right? But savviness is really about having the content, whatever expertise you have, that you bring in, and the form, the savviness of knowing when to say what, and when to move to the next corner of the room, or even being street smart. I would say, that you're being savvy enough to know uh, who do you need to talk to ensure that you have the right network, and find yourself the right mentor, and also connect yourself with the right people, so that you be able to run your learning much, much faster. And next one. So next one, of course, last is resilient. The two are resilience and resourcefulness. Resilience, I mean, of course, pardon me, but those who are also a fan of Ronaldo will know that he is someone who's very resilient. And if you don't have resilience, you won't be able to then um, get through the storms, because I can tell you when you go to work, there would be so many storms and turbulence that will be coming through your way, even air pockets. If you're in the aviation world, we say, you know, you got air pockets, you think you'll be okay, and then suddenly there's an air pocket and you drop down for a while. But you should be able to bounce back and say, okay, fine, I did something wrong, you know, how do I bounce back and come back and make sure that I get the right feedback, as I said earlier on, you know, having the right influencing power. How do I go to the right person to make sure that I am able to stand up again and being resilient? um, Assuming that majority of you are still graduating and fresh graduates, and you know, this common, you know, I always smile whenever they say that Gen X or millennials are called to be strawberry generation, which I don't agree, because I think there's no such thing. I think it really depends on what background and what kind of you know, the person. So this whole generational thing, it's very generalization kind of a labeling. I do think that sometimes I believe I'm a Gen X, Gen Y in a Gen X body, but you know, I do think that there is a myth in that. I think people respond to a situation based on their own experiences, and therefore you got to make sure that you have the right experiences. How do you have the right experiences? Is making sure that you are with the right environment, and that is for you to decide, because there's no right or wrong. Simon Sinek says that you are the average of the 5 people that you mix around with. And so if you are mixing around with people who are not so resilient and who's not so disciplined, there's a tendency that you will be like them as well. But then again, I say that's a personal choice, right? Resourcefulness is so important, because in a company, we are always pressed to go for higher productivity with less, you know, like doing more with less. And therefore, you can only achieve that if you are being resourceful and creative. So if someone who's not resourceful, it would be quite difficult for you to get around. So there is this famous well, there's a book which it's famous for me, because I mean, I was given the book by one of my mentor when I was in my early 30s, and from then on I found the book being very powerful. It's an old book. It's called The Art of Possibilities, and the book talks about how you can navigate your own way and figure out how do you give yourself an A, how do you position yourself in a situation that you can be influencing your own direction in the future. And there's one particular chapter in the book that's called Rule Number 6, which is basic says it's not all about you. And I find that so powerful. So every time I have a new mentee, I will share this book with my mentee, because I think that when someone is we have to be serious about ourselves, but not everything is about us. But when we think about how the other things in the world is happening, we suddenly realize that we're just that one small item in the world. And that's why I think for me, I like to travel, because when the more you travel, the more you experience the other cultures and other places, you realize that the stuff that you are experiencing yourself within a huge world, it's so small compared to probably what you think you would have been if you have just been where you are. So at the end of the day, remember I talked about the growth mindset. I talked about being versatile. I think all these come together with all the 7 things. It is very important that we then come back to the fact that I said about, you know, positive vibes. If you remember it, positive vibes as in positive passion, versatility, influencing power, B, brave, E, enthusiasm, S, savviness, and the 2 R's, which is resilience and resourcefulness. And I think finally, my last slide, I think, can we move on to the next one? Yeah. Always have your feet on the ground, because no matter how good you are, you will never be the best, because the world is changing. The world is moving as we speak now. So have confidence, be disciplined to be whoever you want, but always have your feet on the ground. Be humble, that you'll be able to learn from others and get feedback. So I'm just going to end my session now, and then maybe we can move on to questions. Dash, thank you, and sorry about that technical glitch just now.
Hi, Nadia. That was amazing, outstanding slides. Vibes plus 2R. I think you have summarized the entire thing that a young employee in a large organization can navigate this complex workplace, in a simple way. Vibes plus 2R. All they have to do is tattoo that in their body, and then they have to think and work on it. And also, thanks for through the slides giving us. Are you there? Thanks for giving us the glimpse of your lifestyle, which is fantastic. I like to be you. When I grow up. Yes, I think we have lost Miss Nadia again. I think there's a patch in the internet. Can we just give her a few minutes before we have her back? Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So keep the questions coming, guys. Miss Nadia will be in. I think in times
Yeah.
like this, difficult. The internet. Hi, Nadia. Welcome back to the show.
Sorry. Okay,
No
yes.
problem, no problem. Okay, yeah. So I was saying that with that vibes plus 2R, you really help people navigate workplace today. But also, thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of your lifestyle on your slides. I think it's very exciting. I would like to be. I would like to grow up to be like you. Travel around. It's great, fantastic. And you're a great fan of football. I think I know next to nothing about football. So great. Let me start off with asking you. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I'm one of the weird guys who not taken up to watching
Don't
soccer
worry.
matches.
In my house, my husband doesn't watch it, and I'm the one who's staying up midnight and watch all the footballs and update him and so on.
Wow. So I have a kindred soul there. So fantastic. So I wanted to kick off the session by asking you a question. These are the things that you've said is really fantastic, and it can apply to anyone. But what about graduates or already those with degrees who are looking for jobs? How should they conduct themselves? How do they land even in jobs? And the job market is moving, and you're started with the 4-letter word, which is hope. And that's exactly what they all had, dreams and doubts. But
Mm.
and now today, with the job market the way it is, how do someone graduates today look for jobs? What is it looking like, the future looking like for them?
I don't. Well, it's yeah, the word is hope. Yeah, I mean the four-letter word of hope. I think even during the time when I first graduated, it was tough. But I think today it's even tougher, given that it's compounded by the pandemic issues. I mean, for example, my company is having a hiring freeze. We're only taking on certain key roles, but we're building on a management training program for next year. So we've decided whilst we have to keep the headcount because we're not sure about the business, right? And in business, you have to manage your cash flow. But at the same time, we're making that tough decision and say, hey, we also need to grow our timber because whilst you take an immediate decision to stop hiring, that could be damaging in the longer term because what happens when the business is up, then you may not have the right level of talent to fill up the business. So for whilst it looks very gloomy and dark for most of the graduates these days, my advice would be think about how you can position yourself differently, and that's why I came out with the positive vibe because that's so important. I don't even talk about planning and organizing or the typical sort of skills that people look for. That's a given thing, right? So today you have like thousands and thousands of applications. How do you want to differentiate yourself from someone? There's only 10 jobs and there's like thousands of applications, right? So you just need to be showing up and say how is it that you're different. So in your CV you have to make sure that you are doing something different. Now for those who are in the final year, okay, maybe slightly a bit too late, but if you are in your first year, make sure that you get yourself participate in all the other extracurricular. I do believe that's so important because what we've seen, and it's the research base, yeah, you will see a lot more leadership skills in those who have been very active beyond the books, beyond just reading the books, right? Because those high potentials that we have in organization, in most cases, I would say 95%, they are very active in sports, or they were very active in their university days. They were doing, having leadership roles in Rotary clubs, or I mean, all kinds. I mean, Rotary clubs. So during my time, it sounds so old, right? Maybe during our time, Dash. But nowadays they have all kinds. So you got to get yourself in those positions so that you have a CV that is colorful, that's different. Now, once you get into a job interview, okay, first of all, you might say, hey, Miss Nadia, to even get a job interview is so difficult, right? You have to be
Yes.
resourceful. There's so many platforms. You got to go to Grado, you got to go to LinkedIn, you got to go and write posting, you got to go and connect with people. I have some brave talents who write directly to me, say, hey, can you become my mentor? Yeah, I mean, I love to become mentor if I can do that. I really love doing that. Unfortunately, I don't have all the time in the world, but you know what? I have done for one or two who I look at it and I say, this is the person that I'm going to mentor, because just I can just see those deep passion. And sometimes there's one person who just don't let go of me. He keeps on calling and keeps on sending me in the LinkedIn, messages, and that shows that person has got persistence and stamina. So that is the different thing. So I think making yourself, positioning yourself, being different from the many hundreds, it's important. I don't even want to talk about the your subjects, your qualification. I think that is a given thing. You must have good results, you must have all those things. But I'm saying, but what do you do and put yourself on top of your good results?
Right. So what you're saying is, if I hear you correctly, is that you got to differentiate yourself. The X factor is not just the degree or the qualification, but what else have you done? And on top of that, make yourself, what shall I say, visible to the decision
Mm,
maker of the organization by being persistent, sending messages, putting yourself in the hook, for the lack of a
mm.
better term. Is that what you are saying? That
Yeah.
uh,
It,
uh,
it- yeah, just one more. My favorite, I forgot to say this. Okay, during an interview, or even now, you most likely would have on-screen interview, right? Um,
yeah.
you just have to show the energy, because some people, when you interview them and you ask for one sentence and then they answer you one sentence, and I'm like, yes, so what, so you just have to be more of a storyteller too, because I think the world has become to be much more sophisticated. I know it's making it so hard for you all, right?
Yeah,
But it has, unfortunately, it has become much more sophisticated. People are sending blogs, people are sending videos and so on. So you have to be above the curve in a way.
yeah. Are you there?
Yeah,
So
I'm
yeah,
here.
so our yeah, yeah. So I was talking to another person who had just recently had an interview, and this person said that within 5 minutes, they could decide whether this interviewee is going to be on or not, and they just lost interest in the interviewee. Okay, so within the first 5 minutes, it's all it takes. The person told me that, oh, I'm not interested in this person. So is that the norm? Is that something that they can do? Because there's a huge challenge. Differentiating yourself, there's a challenge. Putting yourself out there is a challenge, and making that impact among the thousands of people who are looking for jobs, and you are looking
Mm.
for this scarce job. Is that a secret nugget that you would like to share?
Well, I mean, that's quite true. Although I consciously tell myself, don't do that, because I mean, I wouldn't say 5 minutes. I'll give it more, maybe 10 minutes. Yeah, roughly, if you've dealt with talent by speaking to someone, you would be able to sort of suss out the intellectual capacity of the person, and also the whole being of that person. But I tell myself, and there's this halo effect, right? I mean, for me, I'm known to be quite energetic, and so I get very lemah when I have a kind of so lembek, and so energy. So I tell myself there's a halo effect, yeah, because I have this terminology which I call the second impression person. So I said, okay, ethically I have to be responsible, and we are talking about DEI, right? Diversity, equality, and inclusion. So I think the world is a lot more colorful now. We have to accept that some people are not just sprinter. So I used to be a sprinter. I used to run for Johor when I was in school. So a sprinter, you sprint really well, you start very well, but you don't finish well. Some people are just marathon runners, right? And therefore they come in, it takes them a while to warm up. These are what I call second impression kind of category. Now, you are lucky enough if you get someone or the interviewer who will say, okay, yeah, I'm going to be consciously reminding myself that there is some kind of categories. But being a second impression person can put you in a more damaging situation if you are put in that situation with the interviewer who only gave you the 5 minutes that Dash told you. So that's why it's so important to practice if you're not that kind of person. And I have worked with leaders who are introvert, but they practice to sound and be an extrovert. You'll be surprised, even at leadership level, senior leaders, they script it, what they want to say and all that. So it's important to prepare yourself. If you know yourself very well, then that means if you're not naturally comfortable with being savvy, I talk about savviness, coming in interview and say hello, looking very confident with a nice grip of handshake and, having a social conversation, then prepare yourself. That brings a point that social conversation, social cohesion is very important because I find that some students or some graduate, they come in, they're just so rigid and so feeling very intimidated. You need to relax yourself. So how do you do that? The more, and that's why I go back to the extra curriculum, the more you expose yourself, the more you mix around with people, you're much more relaxed and you can talk about anything else other than your subject matter. So that's so important. And today we are looking for people like that.
Really interesting. So for those of you out there, you heard Miss Nadiah, she said practice. And, if you're not as lucky as some people would be to get a person like Miss Nadiah who's willing to give more than 10 minutes, you got to practice to show that you have that spark as soon as you get in. There's a question here by Anusha Sudhendiran, which says this. What are your thoughts on job hopping, good or bad, and to what extent of it is considered too much?
Interesting topic because let me tell you, I worked for 28 years. This is my 9th job. So some of my friends say, hey Nadiah, every time I reach a 3rd year, then they'll call me, or headhunters will call me and they say, hey, are you looking at moving to another job? And sometimes they say, so when I join a company, they say, so how long are you going to stay in this company? And to be honest, I never really think about how long I will be in a company, but I would say that I'm someone who gets bored easily, and I like to be challenged. So the minute I feel I'm not growing, and I guess I've been privileged, and people are calling me. So the job hopping definition can be interpreted differently. For some people,
Yeah.
it's every year. So for me, if you job hop every year, that's really job hopping. I think that's not so good. But if you talk to a traditional corporate person, moving every 3 years is also considered as job hopping. For someone who's been in a company for the last 30 years, if you move every 3-5 years, oh, you're job hopping. So my take on job hopping is that it's important not to stay too long in an organization if the organization is not growing, because then you're not growing. But neither do you want to job hop for the sake of job hopping, because many young people, they say, oh, I've got 500 more. Oh, and there's a lot of pressure, right? Your friend is earning 1,000 more than you do, and suddenly you get this offer. It's quite tempting that I'll get 800 more and let's job hop. I think you need to think about it in a bigger picture. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you envisage yourself in the short term, medium term, and longer term? So it's about having a career conversation. Remember, I spoke to you just now about getting a mentor. It's very important. Even now, get a mentor, because then that mentor can then help you to peel out the inner, how to say, because I think I was young before, I even until today, sometimes I tell myself I probably still don't know what I want, but it's important for you to really know where is the destination that you're going on, and you're not just job hopping for the sake of job hopping. Because when I look at the CV and say, oh, every 2 years, and I will ask them, why did you move from this job to another job? Sometimes there's a real reason. Sometimes, and I don't penalize. Sometimes the person say, Well, I moved after 3 months because I just didn't think that I was going to learn from this person. Then my next question is that why did you think that you would not learn from this person? And then the person might say, well, the person was just giving me instructions, no coaching, and it was just so nasty, and it was not ethical. I would accept that as. Hello, can you hear me? Dash, you're on mute. You're on mute, Dash. I can't hear you. Hello, can you hear me?
I don't know how I got. Yes, I hear you, and I don't know how I got muted. But anyway, carry on.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that uh, job hopping for the sake of job hopping is not good. But if you job hop for a good reason, and if you are confident and be able to say the reason for your next interview, then it's okay. But I have to say this, most hiring managers are not as open, and there is still quite many who are traditional and they still think that way. So I'm just giving you a view of a more forward thinking kind of a hiring manager. Yeah.
Very interesting. Someone earlier said they like your view of job hopping, and I think that's very interesting and very candid that you have said is relative, and that for you it's 3 years. It all depends on the person, and job hopping every year could be a bad thing. And 3 years is when you feel that you've gotten to know the job, you've gained some traction, and you can actually assess whether the company is helping you achieve your internal goals, like it's challenging you, it's making you the moving up in your needs. Okay, so there's a question here. I wanted to ask you about mentor, but here let's take this one. A student has graduated with very good grades, or he or she shows dedication and passion towards a certain field, for example programming or accounting, also possesses a great extracurricular talent and good at teamwork, also interactive, energetic, and helpful. But English language communication is probably rated 5 to 6 out of 10. Will that be a problem in all positions or only in customer facing positions? By Imtiaz Sajid Baik.
Okay, so I'm just going to be very brutal about this thing. Yeah, it is
Really be
going
good.
to be, a problem for all positions. Yeah, and I say this because English is an international business language, and what I find it sometimes when the English level is not good, it can be very frustrating for the person. For example, if I'm just immediate and I tell this in my team, sometimes I get senior managers who don't even write proper grammar, and it's very frustrating because I have to check over and over again, right? And then you feel like, why am I doing this job? So I will coach a person, but if it doesn't improve, it will impede the movement upwards, because if you can't articulate in a business language, it's going to be difficult. So I have one of my team member who's really passionate. You talk about positive vibes. He's passionate. He's very versatile. He can influence well. Very enthusiastic. All that of positive vibes and 2R. But he has a bit of a limitation with English because it's not the first language, and I don't blame everyone else, right? But if I were to get the person to run a session in Malay, fantastic. So all I said, look, you've got everything. You've got all the raw materials. That this one thing that gels it together. It's going to be a limitation. And you know what he does? The next thing, register himself to British Council, and also make sure that he speaks. He has someone, a buddy, who will. When I pair him with a buddy who is good in this other Malay lady who's good in English but very thorough in Malay. So I say, okay, the lady's going to learn bahasa from him, and he's going to learn. So then it's not intimidating, because it's about making sure that I encourage that or inspire the confidence in that person. It's not bad, right? But you have to. That's why I say I started by saying I'm being brutal about it, because if you can't move up, it doesn't mean it's only frontliners job. You must be able to speak good English, because that's the business language, and that's probably what's lacking. So go and listen to BBC and talk to a friend, find a buddy who's very good in English, and try and speak, and don't worry about feeling embarrassed that you're going to be correcting. I have some of my team members who are senior managers because they were Chinese educated, and I say, look, I'm going to correct you, right? And then you're not going to get it. Don't feel personal about it, because otherwise you're not going to learn. And after 2 years, 1 year, they moved on. So key thing is, number one, what do you do to improve yourself? Number two, how can you ensure that you take those feedback and work on it?
Now, Nadiah, it's amazing. You are one of the leading HR people, and you are saying that English is crucial and very important, and it's the business language. Now, looking at it, most of our students coming out today, they are going to be challenged by this language barrier, right? The future, I see so many of them coming out of schools and universities. They do not have a good command of the language. What's your advice? I know that you said look at BBC, go and see. I personally would take advice and go and listen to BBC tomorrow when I go for my run, and to improve my own. So, but this is really, really concerning, right? About our education system, as well as the command of English among the young people today. Do you have any input on that, Miss Nadiah? Are we having you? It's quite a challenging day today with technology, right? Janita, you can bring out the question. Can you tell us a bit about what? What she already answered that. But anyway, never mind. Miss Nadiah, are you there? Anyway, Simon Jr., can you tell us a bit about what qualities should we have to possess in order to meet recruiters' expectations? Okay, we will ask this question. And let's wait for Miss Nadiah to get in. Sorry to everyone. It is.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, blame it on Maxis or Telecom. Okay. Okay. Actually, I've done so many talks. Today is the worst ever. I've never had such a story about it. Yeah.
So if someone from DG is watching, they will come to you and say, "Come, look, try us out."
Okay. Can you? So what was the question? The question was about the English. Yeah. It's a systemic issue, I would say. For me, even for me, I studied the normal school. I mean, I wasn't that old to go to MCE, yeah. So I only switched to English when I did my A levels, and I think it has to start from school, not just at university. But of course, since I'm talking to a university, I think the university can play a part by making sure that you have English campaigned, or have a buddy system, help them, but before that, it's also a mindset thing, because sometimes if a person is embarrassed, so it's a fully integrated issue, right? You need an integrated solution. So number one, you need to have a university that will probably provide all kinds of activities that encourage the use of English. Number two, you need to have those counselors who will help those with that issue to be able to accept that it's fine to be learning from someone. It doesn't mean that you're less of someone else. And the third one is the environment. The system must be able to encourage and provide the support circle, because most times, those who are not good in English, they shy away because they don't want to be embarrassed by being corrected. So the support system is very important to ensure that that's done properly. But it has to start right in school level, not at university. It may be a bit late, but nothing is ever too late.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think the universities can play a part, and also nurturing the ecosystem, nurturing them, and also being brave. So there's Simon asking you, can you tell us a bit about what qualities should we have to possess in order to meet recruiters' expectations? Qualities.
Um, Okay, when you talk about what qualities should you possess in order to meet recruiters' expectation, I think first of all you have to be confident. I know it's easier said than done. What do you mean by confident, right? Confidence comes with a good grip of what you need to deliver, which is could be if you're going for a management training program for a certain function, then you must be comfortable, you must know the content of that particular role. Confidence also comes with the fact that you are well prepared, because sometimes when I find that candidates who are not confident because they were not well prepared, they just come in and appear. You know, when you come for an interview, you need to do a lot of preparation, making sure that you read about the organization, you read about the role, you read about what's happening around the world as well. You know, the three dimensions, right? I spoke about, because then you will then demonstrate the quality of you being someone who's reliable, meaning that you want the job, you are reliable because you make sure that you know exactly what is to be required of that particular role. Second one is transparency. I mean, again, this particular one could be different depending on the hiring manager, but I do think that that's my top three or top five. Transparency is very important, because I find that when I ask a candidate for a particular scenario, you know, sometimes they want the job so much, they lie through their teeth, right? Let's say they say, okay, you know, I was part of this project, and they say, okay, yeah, because we have this technique that we will ask you, we will probe you layer by layer, and then you get caught if you are not part of the project, because I was going to say, oh, so great, you were part of this project, and what role will you play? And then you probably, then you were not in the project, but you thought you could go away, and they say, oh yeah, you were project leader. Then I then ask, okay, if you were project leader, what exactly did you do, or what were the challenges? And so I'll dive in further and further, because for me, I'm very particular about it. I want to make sure that my candidate knows exactly what he's talking about, because you know, it's tough to make that decision within that 1 hour scenario. But of course, then there's also the assessment, the tools that you go through. But the assessment, profiling, and all that is just one of those tools. Then we take all that to connect into one conclusion, whether this is the person that we're looking for. So I talked about confidence, I talked about being transparent, and I think the third one, which is top three for me, is being able to how do I say, being able to articulate your idea. For me, that quality is very important. It goes back to communication skills, right? So those three, because if you're confident, meaning that you'll be able to articulate your ideas, and if you're transparent, you'll be able to then say, hey, yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't involved in that, but yeah, you know, that doesn't mean that I won't be able to do that job, whatever. So you're being completely transparent, because ethical and integrity is so important. If you can demonstrate that in an interview, it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
So, Ms. Nadiah, there's an interesting question by Rohan Suarez with a profile photo of a footballer. I can't see who's the footballer. You probably know who he is.
I think it is Ronaldo, is it? If I can see, because I'm actually doing this from my mobile phone. It's rather small, but from the angle, it does look like CR7. I don't know. Is that so?
I don't know. Okay, I can't see that. It's too small in mine. It says he's asking whether, I hope you're doing fine. This is a bit off topic, but I think it's very interesting. What are your thoughts on fresh graduates, someone who is still fresh to pursue a job, to start a startup in Malaysia and aiming to go big? And also, do you mind sharing your thoughts or ideas on should more of us create startups that will be solving real world problems, vice versa?
Oh, this question should be asked. It should be answered by Dash, actually. But anyway, yes. Interesting question. It's not completely off topic, actually. We had this question last round when I was in grad one panel with Fong Tuan and also Latifa from Kazana. So we all three of us agree that I think the world has changed. I think you are lucky enough to live in a world where there's just so much support in the ecosystem that will help you. You have all those grants from Magic. You have people like Dash, who is who teaches entrepreneur. I mean, I even attended a class with him, right? And all those kind of things, as compared to maybe 20 or 30 years ago. So, and you have Google, you have access of information everywhere. It's a question of whether, from the unstructured information, how can you then gather all those information and make sense out of it? Now, my answer to that is that it's a personal choice. And to me, I feel if you have the talent and if you think that you have the right support, and by that I mean don't go blindly. Right support meaning you have someone that you have spoken to, someone like Dash who's experienced in starting startups, or a parent who is supporting you, then go for it, because the world is now full of choices. It's no more just about getting a job in a corporate world. The market landscape has changed. So I feel it's an opportunity for someone, and because even growing in schools and through universities, you guys are going through different experiences as compared to me. And in Dash, probably you remember Dash, I think when we were in university, it's completely different, right? Huge amount of exposure that you're getting now. There were no such thing as a degree in entrepreneur management during my time. There wasn't even a degree in HR management, to be honest, during my time. I did international relations, right?
Nadiah has gone.
I'm back. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, there was a call coming in. So it's really a choice. But I said don't go in blindly. Make sure you have all the support. Do your research. Get the reading, and yeah, go for your dreams. But if you have the patience, I would say, try and get some corporate experiences, if you can have the patience, and at least have some level of foundation. And I don't know, Dash, you did that as well, right? You started in corporation first and then moved out. But again, we're talking about very different world. I know of some people who started being an entrepreneur very early on, and they come from a family of entrepreneurs, and they've got the right backing, right experiences. So go ahead, because they had the right seafood, the right mentor to help them through. So it's not out of topic. Start small, or you can always start and then go into corporate and then come out again. My son, who's 18 years old, is reading a book by Richard Branson, and he's dreaming to be an entrepreneur. But I said, okay, fine, as long as you don't get into a black hole. But yeah, that's my answer.
Very interesting. The last part, when you say you can start and then go back to the corporation and then start again, many of them, when they start, they will normally fail, right? It is very small. And then going back into a corporation, that really ties up well with your positive vibes plus 2R, because positive vibes plus 2R, versatility, influencing, being brave, being enthusiastic, being savvy, resilient, and resourceful are also entrepreneurial skills. And if university students could actually start playing with entrepreneurship ideas, and entrepreneurship ventures itself brings all these skills together, it just puts them in a great platform, even if they want to go into the corporate world. And the corporate world is currently looking for very entrepreneurially minded people who embody these positive vibes plus 2R. Because the positive vibes plus 2R is not going to come to you as you join the company. It is something that you should have developed prior, and that you only, the influencing skill that you so articulately put about socializing your slides or socializing your ideas before you present to the team. And this is what entrepreneurs and early stage startups should be learning to do, socializing ideas to customers, to their stakeholders, right? So, your positive vibes plus 2R should actually even apply to people in the startup scene, I would think. I think they should take a snapshot of that and use it in their startup. So I've been told there are questions coming, and I know you have a 4 o'clock to go for. Are you happy to take one question, or you have to, if this is a hard...
one question, and then I have to go. Yeah.
Okay. Does the employer highly consider work experience when hiring workers? That's all.
Okay. Does the employer highly consider work experience when hiring workers? Depends on the role. If I'm hiring a management trainee, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, we're expecting the person coming straight from university. But if we're hiring for mid-careers, obviously you have to come with some level of work experience.
Thank you, Nadiah. It was amazing to have you. I think this positive vibes plus 2 hour, we can do session 2 if at any point in time that you are free. I think we can dive deeper into it for people who are already at jobs and people who are thinking of transitioning, whatever. I think that itself is sheer pure gold. I would like to dive into it anytime. Thank you so much
Hopefully,
again.
I have a better luck with the internet the next round.
I hope so. I hope so. Have a great weekend. It's already Thursday, Friday. Have a great weekend. Hope you get to get some rest. And thanks once again for being with us. And all the best.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm really sorry about the technical glitch, but I hope that was valuable. And yeah. Anyone who would want to ask me any question, you can always look up and send me a message through LinkedIn. And if you give me some time, I will try and respond to your questions.
And you'll see a different photo of Nadiah in LinkedIn.
Yeah. So it's not that photo anymore because I'm in Setia. So I have to make sure that I represent the company well.
Thank you so much. I miss catching up with you. He's saying in the session 2, can you consider doing
a mock? Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you want to be interviewed by me.
So we'll let you go.
We could do that. We could do that.
I think that will be a great one. So thank you again. And for those of you, thank you, Nadiah, and thank you again. For those of you who wants to get a certificate from APU on this, please scan your QR code. And we will let Ms. Nadiah go. And thank you so much, Nadiah, again. Cheers. So that was Ms. Nadiah from SP Setia, Chief HR Officer. And we thank her so much for giving us her time so freely. And to all the students, have a great weekend. If you have not been vaccinated, go get your vaccine. Stay safe. Wear your masks. Follow all the SOPs. Don't have secret meetings and secret gatherings. We need to break this chain quickly, flatten the curve, and be good. Thank you. Cheers. This is Dash, Entrepreneur in Residence, Asia Pacific University. Cheers.